Chief, can you come join us? Chief Lustig is the chief of police here in Northfield. He's an excellent speaker and a absolutely first-class person. So let's welcome him. The speaker's the live one.
Can I put this?
Sure.
Good morning. Good morning. Normally I have Jay here. He's usually sitting in the front seat telling me about a joke or giving me a research project to do. And Ron's usually here hooking me up with all the microphones and making sure I sign the waiver. But don't worry, Ron, the waiver is signed. Boy, have we been through a lot the last couple of years. We're not through totally with COVID yet. Our political craziness in this world, now we're at a war. I mean, there's just so much going on, so much for us to try to keep up with it. It's been a lot, I got to tell you that. Today we're going to be talking about some frauds and scams that I want you to be aware of. And it never fails that every time I give one of these presentations of warning that one of my residents falls prey to one of these scam artists. There are so many different scams and frauds out there. It's very hard for us to keep up with every one of them. It's just hard, but we need some basic common rules to go by. These people, they want our money, they want our credit, sometimes they want our technology, sometimes they want our silver. It all depends on what they're looking for when they go shopping. So we're going to talk about, I want to start off with some basic rules. You heard this morning, you heard one of the rules, and that is you make sure that when you get certain emails that you're unfamiliar with or telephone or any telephone numbers that accompany it, you do not use them to call back. And we've reached an age where we have to double check everything that comes at us, every telephone call, every email. And what I recommend regarding the telephone calls, as I've told everybody in the past, is disconnect. And the reason I say disconnect is the longer we listen to what somebody has to say to us, the more convincing it sounds. And we're gonna talk about one scheme that just occurred here in Northfield about 3 weeks ago. And it's called the grandparent scheme. A lot of people have heard about it. And a lot of people say, well, how do you fall prey to that? We do, because we're too trusting. Your generation is a very trusting generation. This is how it went. She's a widower. I know her. I drive by her house every other day. I'll give her a call once a week. So there's a relationship there. I thought a relationship of comfort. So she gets a call in the middle of the night from a female saying, and let me just take a sidebar for a minute. Sometimes these scam artists do research on us, whether they look at, if you ever Google yourself and see what comes up. You know, they'll tell you, if you Google me, they tell you what I do for a living, where I live, and you can do a map quest to find out how to get to my house. I mean, there's plus what my wife posts out on Facebook. The point of the story is, what catches us off guard is they do a little research on us. So this female calls this lady here in town and says, Grandma, I was arrested. I need $20,000. And then she turns it over. This is how great it was, to a man pretending to be the attorney for her. And he's telling her what the money's for, but and they will send somebody to pick it up. So most people would say, call your daughter or call your son and find out if their children are okay. You would think so. But what it does for some people, it causes them to freeze and panic. So what did she do? She ran to the bank, got $20,000 in cash. She got a knock on her door and they came and picked it up. She lost 20,000, gone. And so her son called me right away, and we ran over there. We were looking at different cameras down the street to see if anybody picked up a license plate or not, but nothing. So I said to her, you and I talk once a week. I drive by. I get out of my car. She has a big picture window. She's watching TV. I wave. She gives me a thumbs up. Everything's okay. Sometimes she'll give me a sideways. I said, what does that mean? But she gives me a thumbs up. She said, well, Bill, the caller said that the judge put a hush order on and I couldn't tell anybody about this. She believed it. She truly, even though we had a relationship, she believed that there was a hush order and she couldn't talk about this. It still baffles me, but this is what happens when we panic or we freeze over a situation when you think your granddaughter is important or not. So my advice is, if we get a call like that, if you get a call, verify it to be true. You gotta verify it to be true. Even a lot of people won't call the police to help verify it, but call your son or your daughter or your niece or nephew and find out, are you okay or not, before you go out and get money and give it away. So it was truly, it was very sad. So I'm getting reports in that the grandparent scheme is alive and well, and it's going around the North Shore. So just, pay attention to that. Some of our rules about this is, I even brought, hey, can you bring that vest over there, that green vest to me? This is another scheme that everybody's using. This is a traffic vest. The color is Ansel green, as they call it. I'll put it on, see if I can get it on. And so this is another story in Northfield. So a workman comes and knocks on the door and says, hey, I'm here from the village and I want to check your water meter. So what do? They let the person in. They're from the village and they're wearing this Ansel green vest, which, by the way, these traffic vests now you see everybody wear now instead of the orange. You're supposed to see better. Drivers are supposed to see better with this. So when that person comes in and you take them to the water meter, another person comes in from behind and they head straight for the master bedroom. Everybody goes to that master bedroom right away because that's where we hide everything. And that's where they look for money. That's where they look for cash. They're in and out in under 3 minutes. And sometimes you don't even know you've been burglarized until you go look for that object or cash. So when someone comes to your door and they're here for ComEd, AT&T, the village of Northfield, don't let them in the house until you verify whether they're supposed to be there or not. How do you verify? You can call the police. You have the police officer to come and verify it. You can call the village. Don't let these people in our house. And, I'm trying to emphasize this because it keeps happening. They're tricking us. So the grandparent scheme is alive and well. And these roost burglaries are occurring all over the North Shore, everywhere. And they try and trick us. And that's a problem. And they'll use props like these vests. They come to the door, they'll have a hat on. Yes, we're here from ComEd. We've got to cut a tree down in your yard. This happened in Northfield too. So come around in the backyard and I'll show you what tree we're going to cut down because it's too close to the wires. So what happens? They walk into the backyard. The second party comes in through the front door and burglarizes them. Now, 2 weeks ago, and it's been going on for a while all over the country now, and that is the car thefts. So or car burglaries. So we had 8 cars that were burglarized between 1 a.m. and about 4:30 in the morning in Northfield. Somebody got them on one of those ring cameras. So they're wearing a hoodie over their face. You're not going to identify that. And they're wearing gloves. You're not going to get prints off of that. And what they were doing is the car was driving slowly down half, and these guys were running out of the car, running up the driveways. And you see them do this, checking to see which cars are locked or unlocked. So one car was locked, and you see them go to the other car, which was open. They take everything from the inside. Now, it baffles me that we leave such valuable things in our cars. Computers, wallets, purses. But what else a different person left in their car was his gun in an unlocked car. So that they stole the gun. They drove to another community. This just happened. Committed an armed robbery with that gun. The good news is they were caught, and my detectives out there trying to get burglary charges against them. So when they steal our cars or steal our contents of those cars, they may use them. Now, why we're seeing so much of this now is, when we all grew up, we had to stick a key in the ignition and turn it. Well, we have key fobs now. Everything is technology now. I can't keep up with it myself sometimes. So a lot of people leave their key fobs in their car, and these people come along, start the car, and take them. And usually they take them back to Chicago because that's where we find them. I'm not picking on Chicago, but when all your stolen cars are driven back there, that's where they're taking them, back to Chicago. So again, try not to leave the key fobs in the cars. And you know what? If you're going to leave your car unlocked, then don't leave anything of value in it. So that's going on the North Shore. Now, I'm saying these things to educate. Education is very important in trying to remember some key concepts. And that's why I'm not giving you 100 different concepts to try to remember. And that is, number one, when it comes to somebody coming to the door, especially when we don't call them, don't let them in. Have someone verify it. Don't leave your key in your car or anything of value. Now, I just got an alert yesterday up at Whole Foods that someone was pickpocketed. Pickpocketing is still going on. You'll see it in our malls, Old Orchard, Northbrook Court. Those are the closest ones to us. And here's what I see happening in the stores. And I say this all the time. When we're food shopping, don't leave your purse in the car and walk away from it. I see it every day. And I'm not going to say anything to the person because I don't want them to turn around and throw a piece of bread at me. But the point of the story is, don't leave your purse in the cart and walk away with it, because they're getting pretty good now. What they did in this case is they took the wallet out of the purse, left the purse, took the credit cards and the cash and dumped the wallet outside and left. And that person did not even know that they were burglarized or anything was stolen from them until they went out to the pay for it at the cash register and the wallet's gone. This stuff is happening. But we have to be on top of it. And we have to be careful that we're not that trusting as much as we want to be trusting, that, it's occasionally okay to be rude. If somebody calls us up and tries to sell us, and every single day, I get a call from the IRS. The IRS is coming to arrest me for something. Hang up. The banks, it's usually it's Chase Bank calling me, telling me that they want me to sign in and give them. And don't ever give your personal information away. That's your social security number, your date of birth, your license number. Keep those things a secret. In fact, when you go out of the house, I would only take what you need. I wouldn't take all your credit cards. I wouldn't take all your cash if you can. Just take the cards you're going to use and don't bring everything with you. But when we get these, I spend so much time hanging up I've gotten so good at hanging up now. I think even when my kids call, I hang up on them. But the point of the story is when somebody calls and it's in the warranty, well, who's getting these car warranty calls? I guess hang up. Why listen to this stuff? Again, the longer we listen to this stuff, it's going to convince us to do something that we may not want to do. You have to walk. I think it was Jay who caught somebody. He was expecting the delivery, and he was telling me a story on how that he noticed something that not I probably wouldn't have even noticed. But Jay, he's like a detective. He saw some abnormality in the email number and knew better. Here's something pretty interesting when you talk about. I'm sitting in my office pondering the meaning of life, and my office phone rings, and it was my cell number. How am I calling myself? Somebody was able to clone my phone number and use it and calling my office trying to sell me something. Technology is so incredible now that you got to expect the unexpected. And the only way that we're going to protect ourselves is we don't give out our vital information. We don't let anybody we don't know in our homes, and anything of value. If you don't believe in safety deposit boxes, like my wife, then get a safe. They're not foolproof, but they make it harder for them to walk into your house and steal things. And along with that is protect your account number. I know everybody likes ordering, and I tried it. I'm not a technical whiz like Jay and Ron are, but I ordered something over the internet, and I did it once, and they cloned my account and were able to spend more money than I did. So you've really got to be cautious when you're ordering things over the internet. I'm not going to tell you not to do it because everybody does it, but you don't know who you're giving your information to on the other end. So really be cautious about that. So I'm going to just review some of the scams that I want you to, because there's just so many, but I'm just going to go over some of the popular ones. We talked about the utility imposter scam, where someone comes up and may have a vest on, may have a hat on, and they're trying to trick you into letting them in and getting you out of the house or in another part of the house so they can burglarize you. We don't let them in. We call and verify have someone verify who they are. Especially is when you don't call somebody for any type of repair. In a couple of months, the driveway ceiling and home repair scam. I got to tell you, I'm giving these true life examples. So one of my seniors, very trusting, you guys are very trusting. Some guy comes to seal coat her driveway and charges her $50,000. It happens. So she writes a check. And we were able to cancel the check before they cashed it when she called. So, but the driveway scammers are coming, and you mix some type of oil, whether it's a car-based oil, with water and make a mess of your driveway. So if those of you that still do driveways, make sure you go to a reputable company, and they're out there. Just don't, or especially if anybody comes to your door, don't even answer it. That's the way I feel right now. And if they keep knocking, call the police. We've talked about the grandchild in distress. And I still can't believe that $19,000 in cash gone, or $20,000 in cash gone. And they were able to convince her. And she's very bright. She's very bright. And on top of things, but she got panicked, and she told me she got panicked and she froze when she heard it was her granddaughter in need of help. So please remember that when you get a panic call, the first thing to do is take a deep breath and verify. Verify. In a simple call, if it's your granddaughter, your son or daughter, or even them directly, to verify And I know I keep repeating these things, but I got to make sure you understand that they're not breaking in. We're letting them in. We're letting them into our bank accounts. We're letting them into our homes. We got to stop that. And the home repair frauds and the driveway frauds are going to increase over the next couple of months because it's the time of the year we're doing those things. Normally, I talk about making sure that you have the proper locks on your doors or your condos, but at this stage, like I said, we're letting them in either by phone or letting them in through the door. So basically, if you're traveling, try to make your condo or your apartment or your house look, have automatic lights on timers. Maybe a neighbor can watch or shovel or do anything they need to do. Stop the newspaper. This is another Northfield one. So a couple of summers ago, there was a burglary down one of our residential streets. And all the houses looked the same. And I'm thinking to myself, as I go out in front, why did they pick this house when there were all these other houses? Well, that was the only house that had four newspapers sitting in the driveway. And not only that, lights. People leave lights on timers, but don't leave the lights on all day. And if you leave your lights on all day, that's a sure sign. Lights we usually leave at night, not during the day. That's another sign. If you leave your lights on all during the day, they're going to think nobody's home. You know, here I live here in Northfield, and I got lights, sensor lights, lights on timers. I got 4 kids. If that doesn't scare them away, I don't know what won't. But my lights go on about 11 o'clock at night till 4:30 in the morning, because that's the time that these people are out prowling our streets, between 11 and 4:30 in the morning. Because by 4:30 in the morning, the joggers are starting to come out jogging. People are getting ready to go to work. Activity is starting. So they're going to start pulling out of the area at that period of time. So if you're shopping, stay alert and be aware of what's going on around you. Please, when you're leaving a mall, do not, you need to have a wide, you can't be narrowly focused. Got to look around, because you forget, you start thinking, look around your car, watch what's coming up behind you. You have to pay attention. We have to pay, and guess what? You have to work at it. I have to work at it. Park in well lighted spaces, lock the car door, close windows. Your shopping bags, at least put them in the trunk, because if you're going store to store and you want to put your shopping, no, because if you put them in the car, they're going to break the window and get it. If they don't see it, because it's under a seat or in the trunk, they're going to move on. Again, avoid large amounts of cash with you. Be careful, because if, my wife was shopping at Old Orchard and she bought something, and one of the ladies said, are you alone that worked at the store? She says, yeah, I'm going to go to my car. Well, I'm going to walk with you. That's how bad some of the shoplifting has been and robberies from people have been. So you got to really pay attention. So when you are in these places, carry your purses close to your body, your wallet. The guys, I carry my wallet in my front pocket. Carry it. My father-in-law, he actually puts rubber bands around his wallet and keeps it in his front pocket. We want to detour as much of these crimes as we possibly can. We don't want to be a victim, because we don't want to get hurt. So that's another thing you got to think about. If in fact you are a victim, how are you going to handle the situation? And unless you are a black belt in karate, I'm not sure. I think you should go on the offensive. So you may have to give them what they ask for your own safety. if you're a victim of identity theft, that is a lot of the work that you got to do, because you got to call your bank. You should make a police report. You should be calling all the Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, all those different companies to let them know that you're a victim of identity theft. And that's another thing I lived through. My wife again. What am I going to do with her? So she goes out. She goes out for dinner and she uses her credit card, her business credit card, at a restaurant. They clone the card, and $50,000 later, it took her several months to get everything cleared. It was not fun. And we talk about these things, and the reason we keep talking about it, and I keep repeating myself, is it's going to happen to you.
Chief, please stay with the mic. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ron. I'm sorry. See, I miss you. You need to be here helping me.
We are. There's over 70 of us on Zoom, Chief.
Have I put you to, Ron, are you ready for your afternoon nap from my talking?
No, sir. You're doing fine. Thank you.
So clearing identity theft is a lot of work on you. And we're talking about this stuff to prevent it. And I just want to keep drumming into your head not to be a victim. And I don't want you to be a victim. And it's okay. I get these calls too. Sometimes I try playing around and I call the number back and trying to get them to hook on. But sometimes when you call these numbers back, they don't even lift up, and the phone is usually dead or a throwaway phone. But we don't want to be a victim of identity theft. We don't want to be a victim of, and here's another thing that you have to be careful about, especially in the bigger cities. You know, I don't want to keep pinpointing Chicago, but there's a lot of things going on in Chicago. Every day somebody's getting shot in Chicago. Every day there's some scam going on in Chicago. So when you're taking public transportation or you're driving down to Chicago, you need to be careful. You need to be careful down there. My son goes to college down there. It scares me that he's going to law school. He's following in your footsteps, not mine. But I'm worried about him. I'm worried about him getting shot or mugged or anything else. We got, in this day and age, and in this current society right now, we have to take every safety precaution we can. And we don't want to be a victim of these different types of crimes. And the computer, the technology crimes are so complex now. When you get an email from someone, this is happening to me more and more. People I know are sending me emails or a directed message on Facebook, and I respond, and then all of a sudden I get a different question back, and it confuses me. So now I know that friend of mine has been hacked. You got to watch that if you're emailing somebody back and forth, and if I'm emailing Jay back and forth at some of his jokes he sends me, I got to know it's Jay I'm talking to, because sometimes you don't know who you're talking to. Yes, ma'am.
My email got hacked, and everybody, I guess, in my email got first their email saying, "I need your help. I don't have the Amazon." It went back. They asked for, you'll have to repeat this, and they asked for a $250 gift card at Amazon for my granddaughter because I didn't have a Amazon.
Right.
Chief, could you sum up her question?
Yes. So she got hacked, and one of her friends, everybody on her, all her friends got tricked into trying to get her to buy something off that account. And that happens, and that's very common.
Chief, I do want to wait until you're finished before there are questions from the audience first and then from Zoom.
You know, well, let me just sum it. I want to repeat what I'm saying, and then I'll take questions. And that is, again, the grandparent scam can be very, very costly to you. $20,000 in cash. This resident went to the bank to get the money. And I would have hoped the bank would have said, hey, what are you doing this? It's like a wake-up call. That always doesn't happen. So don't fall prey. Double check, and recheck. When somebody comes to your house that you don't know and you didn't call, especially if you didn't call for a service, the red light needs to be blinking on in your head, and you need to verify these people and don't let them in. Be very cautious about panicking, because you freeze and then you'll do the wrong thing. But you can always call the police to help you with this person at your front door. Watch out for technology. It's very complex. When you're on Facebook, when you're on emails, you never know if somebody's hacked and what they're going to do or try to convince you to do or convince you to buy. And it's, if I didn't start experiencing some of this stuff myself, I probably wouldn't have even known what I was talking about. Are there any questions? Ron, I'm open for questions now.
We're going to start first with the auditorium, Chief.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief. As usual, a very stimulating discussion. I have a question. If you're going away for a few days and you want to set timers to what hours would you set the timers for?
I would, what are your normal hours that you are up at night? So if you go to, let's say you go, lately I've been going to bed at 8:00 because I'm done. So I may set a timer that goes on when it gets dark out. So at dusk, and then I may have a go till, I don't know, 4:30 in the morning.
The living room lights and bedroom lights
Yes.
and things like that?
Yes, and some timers allow you to that they go off and on at different times. And exterior sensor lights, I'll never forget, I was almost stepped away from this podium, then Ron would have yelled at me. I'll never forget when I was a young person, a long time ago, and I was checking a house on a burglar alarm, and it was night. And as I'm coming around the corner, the sensor lights snapped on. It startled me, and I was supposed to be there. So if it startled me, it'll startle a burglar.
The other thing I'd like to comment about is if you get an email and it looks like it's from a friend, but you have a suspicion, you can click on that person's email name, the sender, and often find that the email address is nowhere close to the email address of the person whose name appears on the email sent to you, and that they've just hacked this friend of yours email list. So that's something
Dan, you know what?
do.
I'm going to have you next year. You're teaching this. You're going to stand up next to me with this. That's true, and that's very awesome. But I didn't even think of doing that because I was so taken back of the response I got. But that's very true. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have two questions. One is I noticed in the local paper, there seems to be a rash of theft of catalytic converters. Could you comment on those? And the
Yes.
second one is I get these calls. Somebody says, I'm from Microsoft and we noticed a problem. We want to help you fix it. They want you to go to the computer and they give you a login so they can get to your computer. What I do is I just stall them. I never go to the computer until they realize that I'm wasting their time and they make an obscene remark and hang up. My wife thinks that that's not the right thing to do, even just staying on the phone with them for that time and not near the computer. It's not a good idea. Could you comment on that too,
Yes.
please?
And let me do that first because that's right in my mind. Number one is, as long as you're not giving out information, leave the phone off the hook for weeks. That's okay, as long as you're not giving information. And yes, across the entire Midwest, catalytic converters, which is part of the muffler system underneath the car, they're being stolen. And the reason, and the resale price is anywhere between $50 to $350 per catalytic converter. Now, what makes catalytic converters so unique is inside their catalytic converter are also precious metals. Yes. You know, Ron, you're going to have to get up here pretty soon. Precious metals, platinum, and a few other things. So that's what they're stealing. The resale price is incredible. And it's all over the North Shore. They're walking around with a battery-operated handsaw. They climb underneath the car, saw it. If you hear a sawing noise at 3 o'clock in the morning, call the police.
Chief, will you comment briefly on these alleged phone calls from the IRS and phone calls from Social Security? I mean, people should know that those organizations do not call. They put it in the U.S. mail.
You too want to get up here and teach this. Yes. First of all, have you ever tried calling the IRS by phone? I have. 2.5 hour wait. If you can get the IRS to call you, you're a lucky person. So the answer is yes. The IRS, Social Security, they're not going to call you. They're too busy. If there's any issues involving any federal agency, they're going to be sending you a letter and they'll find you. They have a way of finding you, but they'll be sending you a letter. There will not be any phone calls. Hang up, disconnect yourself from that. Anything else?
Yeah, I have just a little divergence though. In light of all of the expressway shootings that have occurred, do you have any suggestions of how you can drive to protect yourself now on the expressways?
Yes, and let me, before I jump into that, why is this happening? This is a socioeconomic problem, I think. I think it's how different economies of scale have played in raising children now. I think we're dealing now with a generation that has not been, didn't come from dual families, single parent families, non-educated. Their morals and their values of life all have an impact. And as a society, we have to fix that a little better because we're now dealing with a generation that has not a real big conscience of picking up a gun and shooting at somebody else. We're seeing this. I think it's a failure of society. I think, you know, I sit and I think a lot on how to fix it. And the problem isn't, it's from when they leave school, they have afternoon sports, but it's from the sports to when they go home. And that component needs help. It needs help. I think that right now with a lot of these juvenile crimes, the gangs have realized that juvenile law is different than adult law. We know that juveniles aren't sent to prison unless it's a capital offense like a homicide. Anything short, they're released. And they don't get in trouble as if it were an adult. So I think, yes. That's another issue. But how are you going to, you know, I love when I hear people say gun control. They're there, they're out. You think gangbangers are going to turn in their guns? Here's my gun. It's not going to work that way. And police can't go door to door. That's against the Constitution. Give me your guns. That's not how it's going to work. Getting back to your question, it's a problem. There isn't a great way to travel the expressways. Usually they're happening at night. So you've got to be more aware of it early evening. And there's not much you can do to protect yourself from a bullet coming at you. We have to take a step back in this country and see what we can do to help the impoverished area of our society, which I think is a problem because they're kids. Here, okay, I give you last summer, 2 o'clock in the morning, I get called out. Boy, at 2 o'clock, I won't move from this spot, Ron. At 2 o'clock in the morning, what happened was 4 kids were stealing cars and we found them in Northfield and they took off running. So we set up a perimeter like we do. And then one of the officers saw an Uber driver pick up 4 people. We stopped them. Those were the the burglars. So when I got there, 3 14-year-olds and one 17-year-old. These are babies. This is what's police are chasing. These are the kids that are walking around with guns. And I'm looking at them, 14-year-old babies out stealing cars. Really? And it was pretty sad. So we called their parents to come and pick them up. No, they weren't going to pick them up. So I had to have somebody drive them home. So the point of the story is, in this country, we got to start working on how to better handle some of our social justice issues, which are these kids, and maybe when they commit crimes, we put them in some type of a vocational system where they learn a trade, we educate them, and we try to help them through this. I don't have a great answer to how to fix it, but we are now feeling this recipe of these kids committing those heinous crimes. I'm sorry, I went on a long. Ron, did I put you to sleep?
No, sir, but we have lots of questions from Zoom, but we're waiting to get the clearance from the auditorium.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, what would you recommend we implement for home security, like locks? I have a front door that has glass right by it, and that's always concerned me. So
Okay.
how do we protect ourselves from locks, or what system at home?
Okay. There's a lot of brand new systems, but let's talk about your specific issue. There's a double-headed cylinder, meaning there's a key on the inside that you can pull out. So when you use a deadbolt lock, it's not only you have the cylinder outside to get in, but you have the duplicate on the inside. So if they break the window, they can't reach in and turn the lock.
I had a locksmith come out, and I wanted that put in, and he said, "Oh, no. What if you want to get out?"
Well, very good. So you know what I did in my house? I put in the closet that's in the hallway, I put a hook up and put the key there, showed all my children. And in the case of an emergency and you're going to use this door, that's how you get out. Mainly we use it when we're just not home. But to get past that issue you had is put a hook in the area so you can grab the key and get to the door. There are a lot of great alarms now. There are wireless alarms. You know, back in the day, burglars would cut the wires, and if you didn't have a dedicated wire, it wouldn't send a trouble alarm. So I would recommend, there are so many different reputable alarm companies. I would have them come out and take a look at your house, look at the wireless, different types of alarms. And you know, it's funny you mentioned that. We had a burglary a month ago to the second floor home. They didn't alarm the second floor. They only alarmed the first floor, so the alarm never went off. So that was another interesting thing. But get the double cylinder, put a key in the area, and I would call an alarm company. There's ADT, Keith, a million of them. Have them come and do an assessment of your home. They'll look at your weak areas, and that would be one way to start. I think, Ron, we're ready for your callers.
Okay, great. Lou Solomon is asking a really good question. How do you protect yourselves? How do we protect ourselves from package thieves?
Okay, a lot of people, well, there's not much you can do other than a lot of people put these Ring cameras up that when they come to the front door, you see who's stealing the package. But the best way to do it is try to schedule the delivery, if you can, to when you're home, or have a neighbor watch for your package to bring it in for you, because there's not very much you can do for these package thieves other than the Ring cameras, which will catch them doing it. But basically your neighbor, or see if you can either pick the package up, have it delivered at a specific time, or have a neighbor wait for it to be delivered.
Thank you, Chief. I think this is Sheriff Craven, maybe Shirley. How can we protect ourselves from carjacking? What action should we take there while we're in a car?
You know what? And that's a very good question. It's funny because my wife called, you know, she works downtown, and She's always driving and she's always frightened. And the best thing to do is there's a lot of things to do. Number one is make sure your doors are locked. Try to stay don't go into what, I don't want to use the term bad, but bad areas of the Chicago. So because you're just asking yourself for problems. Be very careful when you pull up to a stoplight or a stop sign. And because usually a stoplight or a stop sign is when they're going to make their move. And then you have to make decisions. And if there's, whether you can pull around that, pull forward or without getting hit by another car, pulling to the side or to the right, but you may want to come up with a plan. But it's usually at the stop sign or the stoplight that's going to make sure your doors are locked, and see if you can think of calmly a method of a way of getting away from it. Some escape method.
If we feel someone may be in the process of being scammed, we hear this in a discussion group, or we feel that's happening. Should we call the police or even the North Shore Senior Center to intervene, or do we have to confront the person ourselves through maybe a family member? How do you recommend we handle that if we hear something?
Okay, and that's all. When it comes to families and elder fraud, elder abuse, it's always complex. So the answer is, it's twofold. One, you would call the police in the jurisdiction that is occurring, and the North Shore Senior Center has someone here that'll help you and walk you through this process, and may even contact the police for you and or with you. And certainly wouldn't make that, you don't want to make that confrontation unless you have a professional with you, because families can be very, very turbulent areas when it comes to those things. It's important. And I think the senior center I used to be on the board here. I was here for a while working with Jay and Ron. I think we used to put on programs about, on that specific topic, on what to do if a family member is scamming you, which is a very difficult situation, and or other fraud schemes that are occurring. But to answer that question, if you're in a group, usually you can have one of the social workers here with you, and they usually contact us, and we work with the senior center works with the police departments in most communities in this area. Does that
Chief,
answer your question?
Yes, I think, Chief, what we can do is really get to some of the experts here at North Shore Senior Center and have a program that talks about that. So thanks for that. That's a good suggestion, I think, that we work with the North Shore Senior Center. Here's more of a suggestion for your office, Chief. The Highland Park Police Station has a poster showing stuff on a car seat, and it says, "Get your free stuff here." So Bob Bloom is kind of suggesting that you might want to look at a poster.
You know what? I have one of those posters. Years ago, I handed it out here. It's called Free Stuff. But as much as we try to educate, and that's why I made it. I made strong points about who we're letting in our home, and whether it's by phone or by in person, we got to stop it.
Okay. Here is one from Virginia, and she's asking, if you have mail held, who sees that list? Is it better to have your neighbor pick up your mail? And the same for newspapers. And I'll add a thought that I had a question on to that. Is it okay you feel to be sharing information with your neighbors that you trust as far as contact information, especially if you're away? But who sees that mail list and may act on it?
Okay, let's talk a little bit before I forget everything you asked me. One is every police department has a house watch list. So if you're leaving town, you call the Northfield Police Department. My name is Jay, and I'm going to be gone from this time to this time. In case of an emergency, call this person. So the police department has that information. Two is it all depends how much you trust your neighbor. If they're friends of yours, absolutely, you can use them. Stop the newspaper or have them pick it up. stop the mail, or have somebody pick it up that you trust. Did I get everything on that?
You did, Chief. Thank you. Don Packard asked this: what is the job of a security person inside a retail store? Do they stop the looters who come in to the store and clean out the shelves? Or are they instructed to just stand there and do nothing and be a deterrent in that way?
No, the security guards are there. Yes, they're there for a deterrent, but not only that, some of them walk people out to their cars. So if you walk up to the security guard, you have all these packages and you say, can you walk me out of the car? A lot of them should do that as a courtesy. They're there to make an arrest if they can. Some are armed security, some are unarmed security, but a security guard is there to prevent security and or make an arrest and hold them until the police get there.
Okay. Chief David Waterman is asking, is there a legitimate way to stop robocalls and multiple bogus emails?
You know what? You can try, part of it is you can try the do not call list, which may last for a month or so, and then they seem to start all over. There is a way to block calls. So you can try blocking certain calls and only accept certain ones. So there is a system for that, and you'd have to. In fact, I think you have to contact the phone company is one of them, or you could maybe even through your computer. But there is a method that allows certain calls to come through and won't accept other calls.
BP is asking your opinion on this. I'm curious if video games to some degree contribute to or inspire street shootings or carjackings. Have you ever heard comments from the bad guys or gals along these lines? Video games.
Well, it's funny. You should ask me that, Ron. I just read a book by a colonel, a retired colonel, who talks about the violent video games and how it relates to young children. You know, when you and I were growing up, if we were watching a scary movie and somebody were to pick up, let's make it simple, an axe and wave it, go to hit somebody with it, we'd see is the person fall down. But now if they pick up an axe, they actually watch it split you in half and everything else, all the other gory details that go along with it. So there is a study out there that feels that violent video games at a young age, I mean, in fact, one of the shootings that occurred at one of the schools, the young man that did the shooting practiced shooting on one of those video games. So yes, do I think, and is there studies and theories on that? Absolutely. I think violence begets violence, and I think that violence video games have an impact on children, especially if the parents aren't monitoring it.
What's your thoughts about police or firemen making donation calls? Is that done? Or I know that I have received what I would consider scam calls on that. Are they legitimate though?
Okay, let me just make this simple. When I get those calls and I get them, I hang up. Police officers and firemen are paid through your taxes from your village. That's how they get paid. So don't get hooked up into making a donation, especially over the phone. It's one thing if you're walking by and you want to put something in a bucket or something, but I wouldn't even consider doing that because, like I said, the police officers and firemen are public officials and they get paid. You're paying them from your community. And, you know, if an officer shot in Chicago, which happens every day, and you want to make a personal donation, that's one thing. But when you have all these other entities calling the Fraternal Order of Police and this and that, calling for a donation, I wouldn't do it unless especially if you don't know who you're talking to.
Don is asking if you have a position on what might be something of a political question, but we'd like your views on it. What is your position on people in the public being able to buy assault weapons like AR-15s and AK-47s?
First of all, that you can't do that. Some of those assault weapons are banned. But, you know, this is what I mean about the gun control. What does that mean to people? Because if you stop, and we wouldn't be able to, the manufacturer of guns right now, the only people who will turn in guns are your innocent bystander people. Usually the people that turn in guns to us in Northfield are people that the gun was left to them by their father, found in a house. But I never touched a gun until I became a police officer. And I'll never forget this. When I went down on the range to practice, the target was 5 feet in front of me. And I shot and I missed the target completely. You can't pick up a handgun and be an expert with it. Our officers practice once a month on the range. Everybody thinks, why don't police officers shoot to wound with a handgun? There is no such thing. Nobody, as much as I love John Wayne, nobody can shoot the gun out of the hand. It's not true. It's not true. No police officer is that good with a gun that can shoot or wound. You know, you hear, well, how come this person was shot? Well, you know what? Not sure if he was hit, how many rounds were set off. Nobody's that good. Now, there's such thing as sharpshooters, but that's with long guns, the rifles. But nobody with a handgun is that good. But getting back to your question, I'm not a gun person. It's a gun is a problem. There's laws on the books, but in Cook County, we don't do very well with prosecuting people. As you can see, it's been all over the news. We let people out too soon. We let people out with bond and violent crimes. It's a problem. There needs to be a consequence for violent crimes or any crime, some consequence. And we're not seeing consequences right now.
Thank you, Chief. The other comments and questions, I think you've covered quite a bit. In the interest of time, I'm going to turn it back to the auditorium, but I'm going to ask one last question that comes really from Mark Lukovich, and just maybe give us your thoughts on this. Should we be just assuming that we're dealing with the crook? And would that be the best approach for us to take as far as being cautious seniors?
You know, I think that depends on the situation, because that's a good question. But I don't want to have you all look at everybody as they're a crook. I'd rather you look at everybody as cautious when they step onto an unfamiliar line with you. When you're at home and somebody rings your doorbell, a solicitor, especially when you have no solicitor signs, they're violating an ordinance. They're violating a rule. They're coming to your house when you didn't call them, whether it's utilities or whatever. When someone violates your own personal code, the rules or the law, those are the people you have to be very cautious of, because they're trying to trick us. They want our money. They want our credit. They want our property. They may want to injure us. We don't know, but we don't want to give them the chance, Ron. Does that answer?
Chief? Yes, it does. And thank you, Chief. I'm turning it over to Fred.
Chief, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's hear it.
Thank you.
Excellent.